Hello, I'm Refashionista Sheri, and as I am doing another 30 days of refashions for my birthday month of September, I thought it would be fun to revisit the first 30 days of refashions that I did back in 2022. So that's what we're doing all this week. I have 4 fabulous compilation videos coming right at ya. And if you want to know exactly how to get started refashioning or upgrading your skills from thrifting to sewing, absolutely everything is in my Rocket Refashioning 101 ebook. So you know what? Let's get started with day 1 to 7.
Today, we're going to take this semi-sheer curtain fabric and this oversized boxy top and create an adorable baby doll dress. So let's get started. So the very first thing I'm going to do is figure out which way I want to cut my fabric. Now, because this is kind of curtain fabric, basically, and it's quite lovely and semi-sheer, the very first thing I need to do is figure out which way I want to cut this. And because here this side is finished and this side is finished, and clearly this polyester fabric is going to, I just got to barely pull it and the fraying begins. So I think I'm going to cut it this way for the top, so then I can already have finished edges, because if I kind of hold it up to myself and just let it kind of fall on my shoulder there, it's the length or width, I guess it is right now, it gives it like 3/4 sleeves. So anytime I can like skip a step, like having to hem up semi-sheer 1970s polyester fraying fabric, I'm going to do it. And because these edges are already finished, I do not need to hem them. So that's why, for the top, at least, we are going to be cutting it this way, so I have my finished edges. And let me know down below if you kind of do that same kind of thing. So as you can see, I have had to lay the fabric out on the floor because my table just is not big enough. And I have folded the top in half there, and I laid my template oversized top on top of it. And I've kind of lined it up here pretty close to the bottom hem, because I will be making it shorter than this actual top, and I do need to hem up this fraying raw edge here. But for now, that's looking pretty good. So now I'm just going to cut off the excess fabric. So I now have my piece of fabric folded in half again, and that means I have 2 folded edges at the top and 1 folded edge on one side. Now I'm going to grab my pins and mark the areas that I need to cut out to create my basic top shape. So to do that, first thing I'm going to do is on this little corner right here, I'm going to pop a pin, so then I know where the center of the neckline needs to be. Then I'm going to grab another pin and mark this neckline area here, just so I have an idea of where I'm going to cut it out. And next, this area here is the bottom of the kind of armhole sleeve area. So I'm going to put a pin a little bit down from that for seam allowance. And one more pin to mark here the side. So now I have to go chop out this area here, which will then create my sleeves. I'm not going to do anything with the neckline yet. And I now have kind of a lovely half T shape here, which will soon be the top of my dress. So now, before I go ahead and stitch up the sides to create the sleeves, first I'm going to just cut out the really basic shape here for the head hole. Now, it doesn't have to be big at all. I'm just kind of marking the area for it to be. And if it's too small, I can always, of course, go and cut more. Better too small than too big at this point. So now I have unfolded my fabric, so I just have 2 layers now, and it is in a lovely T shape. And now I'm just going to go and stitch this and this together. So the bottom of the sleeve and the side are going to both get hemmed up on both sides. So now is the time when you can slip it on inside out and check that that head hole and make sure you can get into it, which mine is fine actually. I'm kind of surprised, although I think I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And yeah, the sleeves actually look pretty darn great. So now I have a little pin here, and I'm just going to mark the length I would like the top to be, and I think I want it to be more of an empire type waist, so I'm just going to put it right under my chest there. Okay, perfect. So there's my little pin here, plus I have given myself about 1 centimeter for seam allowance, and now all I have to do is chop it to the right length. And I'm going to widen up my head hole a little bit more. Bind this neckline here, which, I mean, you can see it's already starting to fray, with this lovely lace. And I have so much of this that I probably will be able to put some around the waistline as well once the skirt is stitched on, just to give it some groovy lacy details. And my adorable lace neckline is complete and looking fabulous. And now let's move on to making the skirt for the dress to go along with this top. So to get the correct width for my skirt, and I want the skirt to be quite floofy, I'm just gonna wrap the fabric loosely around my body at about the area where, you know, the skirt is gonna start. And then I'm gonna double that, like so. Now, if you want your skirt to be even floofier, then triple that, or just add another 50%. But that's basically all I do to get a nice kind of floofy skirt. And now I'm gonna go chop this and sew this into a big tube. So I have my skirt stitched into the giant tube now, and now all I have to do is stitch the top to the skirt, and hopefully it's gonna be done, except for except for maybe some embellishments. So I have my top right side out with the back facing up on my table, and I have my long tube skirt inside out. So when I put the top into the skirt, the right sides are going to be facing. La la. Now you can gather this up however you want. You can pre-gather it up and then just kind of try to match it up to the width of the top. Or you can gather it as you stitch, which is, I don't recommend it. It's not too easy. Or you can do my method. So the very first thing I do is take this center back seam of the skirt and put it kind of as best as I can in the middle of the top and just pin it there. So then I have, you know, a baseline for how I'm going to do my pin tucks. Then I kind of stretch out the skirt and find where the sides would be and pin that to each side of the top. One side. We have the other side. And now I can take this excess fabric that is here on the back and of course on the front as well, and just do a bunch of nice little pin tucks to match the width of the shirt with the skirt. Does that make sense? Let's hope so. So now I have all of my little pin tucks sorted out, hopefully. Now I can go stitch the whole thing together. So now the top is attached to the bottom, and because it was insanely long, I really misjudged the length somehow. I chopped it to the correct length, and then I had more than enough of that vintage lace left, and I went all the way around the bottom hemline. Plus, I still had more left, so I went around the sleeve hems as well. And now it's time to finally go try it on. I mean, come on. This, again, I have no words. I
truly don't know how I managed to make this, and I don't know how the heck it came out so well, but wowza.
For this project, you need your sweatshirt and a scarf. And I think these actually look pretty nice together. There's kind of a shimmery gold in the scarf, and of course the pinks, the gold here, and white. So yeah, let's just see what happens. Okay, so my idea here is to add pieces of the scarf to the side to like totally create new sides. So I got to get rid of the existing side and the sleeves. So I've turned the sweatshirt inside out. So now I'm just going to chop straight up through the bottom hem all the way through the sleeves and shoulder to completely remove the sides. Okay, so now I guess I've basically created like a giant kind of bib that would go over your head. So let's add some sides to it. Okay, so I think the easiest thing to do here with my scarf is to just kind of add it to the sides here. So very first thing I need to do is measure the length from one end all the way to this other end so I can create the correct length of the scarf. So now that I have my scarf cut to the right length, I need to chop it in half so I have a piece for each side of my shirt. And the easiest way to do that is I have folded it lengthwise once, twice, and now I'm going to fold it widthwise once, making sure everything is as lined up as possible. I mean, it's just a cheap fast fashion scarf, so you know, it doesn't have the cleanest of edges here to line up, but we're doing a good job, I think. And now I'm just going to cut this whole folded piece of fabric in half. And now I have two pretty darn equal pieces of fabric to add to the sides of my shirt. So I've now laid my shirt down with the wrong side facing down, and I'm going to start from the front and place one piece of my scarf right at the bottom hem. And you can see here I am just using the finished edge of my scarf on the bottom as well as on the side here. So the raw edges, the chopped raw edges here on the shirt and on the scarf are going to get all lined up together. And then I'm just going to go stitch all the way down to the back of the shirt on one side. So I did go ahead and stitch on both sides, and it looks so super adorable. And you know what? If I just wanted to keep it like this, I could be done and have a poncho. But I think I want to add some kind of sleeve detail here. So the first thing I need to do is keep this right side out because we need to have our sleeve seams on the outside, not on the inside, because if they were on the inside, then when you flip the shirt right side out, the kind of floaty flappy part would disappear to the inside of the top, and we don't want that. We want it to be on the outside. Okay, so next I've grabbed a top that is quite wide, and actually this is one I made out of a tablecloth years ago. Okay, just lining everything up here, make sure the collar is pretty even. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So what you want to do is just about 1 centimeter or 2 below the existing kind of underarm seam. You want to mark it. Just going to pop a little pin in there. And then you want to stitch straight down from that mark, all the way down to the bottom hem. And then this part up here is going to be your sleeve. You'll have your seam. And then this part here will be a little bit flappy, floaty in the breeze. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. We'll see. So I have stitched down both sides. Now it's time to go try it on and style it up.
How adorable did this one come out? I know I keep saying this, and I'm stuck. Sorry, just a second. I know I keep saying this, but I'm like really surprising myself recently with how adorably wonderful all of my ideas are coming out. I mean, as you know, like over 90% of the tutorials that I share, I've never done it before. So as I'm doing it, that's, you know, the first time we're like doing this together, basically, for the very first time.
For this super fast but super funky project, all you need is a awesome vintage round tablecloth. And I've had this one for years. And I mean, I just love this so much with the fringe on it. And the pattern is so super 70s cool. Plus, you need a t-shirt that is a little bit too small for you. And your sewing gear, of course. You can't forget your sewing gear. So first, you just want to make sure that your tablecloth wraps comfortably around your body, because if it doesn't, then, you know, the skirt's not going to work very well. Next, grab that t-shirt that is a little bit too small for you and check that the bottom part of the t-shirt can rather comfortably, maybe with a little bit of stretching, go from one side of your body around to the other side of your body, because we are going to use this comfy bottom half of the shirt to create a very, very lovely, comfortable yoga style waistband. So let's get making. So now we need to create our hole in the center of the tablecloth so we can put our waistband on, and then the skirt's going to be done. It's that simple. Now I love these type of circular tablecloths that have the nice circular pattern in the center, because it really helps as the template and a guide, because you know this is the center of the tablecloth. So going to fold this as evenly in half as I can. Okay, and then just kind of hold it up and see, can I simply just cut out the center of this? Maybe not. So let's go do it, you know, properly, I guess. So when I say properly, I don't really mean measuring and everything, because I really follow the eyeball method. I don't measure things usually, so let me know down below if you do that as well, if you prefer to just kind of guesstimate and eyeball things, or do you do things really properly with nice tailor's measures and rulers and math? Let me know down below. Okay, so my eyeball method is to simply fold the skirt in half, or skirt, so it's not a skirt yet, fold the tablecloth in half twice. So we have here once, and then I'm folding it in half one more time. So I have made a lovely kind of rounded triangle shape. And then I'm just gonna cut off the tip here of the triangle and pretty much just guesstimate how much I have to cut off. And then I'm gonna go slip it on over my hips and see if it's gonna fit. La la! Oh, hey, look at this. Poncho, I mean, come on, how easy would that be? To just, you know, cut a hole in a round tablecloth? You got a poncho. Anyway, this isn't a poncho, it's a skirt. Okay, so this I can already tell is probably not going to be wide enough, but I think it's always better to cut less than I think I need, and then if I need more, I will go back and cut more. And there we go. I definitely need to cut some more. Okay, so I have my t-shirt, I have my scissors, and because I like to kind of fold in half, double up my t-shirt waistbands, I'm going to be cutting my shirt right under the underarm seams here. So now I have a kind of just t-shirt fabric tube here, and I'm going to take the raw edge and pull it to the inside. So I'm just really folding it to the inside on both sides. The easiest way to do it is to line up the side seams as best as you can. You know, some t-shirts aren't made super straight, and this is one of them. If you look there, that doesn't look very nice. So let's see what we can do to straighten that out a little bit. All right, there we go. You can see here, yeah, that's not very straight at all. So I'm gonna trim this off, this excess fabric here. So now I'm just gonna go stitch all of this around just to secure these kind of open edges together. Ooh, and my comfy yoga style waistband is now complete and ready to be popped over top of the skirt bottom. Alrighty, so we're gonna flip it inside out, and just like with, you know, pretty much everything, we're gonna pop the two items together with the right sides facing and the raw edges here, the bottom edges lined up. Shake it down, and now all I have to do is go stitch all the way around, and my skirt is seriously going to be done. So let's do it. Et voila, my beautiful yoga waistband circle skirt is complete. So I'm gonna go steam this quickly, and then let's style it up. This is another one that came out so much better than I thought it would. I mean, the fact that I can wear it as a skirt and as an adorable poncho. I'd like styling it as a skirt though. I think it would maybe be best in like a westerny kind of theme. I don't know. Let me know. What do you think of how I styled it with my vintage top and hat? And I don't know. You let me know. How would you style this as a skirt? I mean, the fringes are just kind of screaming cowgirl to me. So I think the easiest way to upsize this is going to, of course, be to add some side panels. Now, for sure, it's going to need to be from the sleeve cuffs all the way to the bottom hem, so like the entire side. But luckily, I just happen to have the leftovers from that pink sweatshirt that I transformed into that kind of floaty top just a couple of tutorials ago. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add the sides that I chopped from the pink sweatshirt to the sides of this Mickey Mouse sweatshirt. So let's do it. So I flipped the sweatshirt inside out, and I just had a thought to check the sleeve cuffs, because if they're not too tight, and they're totally not, it's like up to my elbow and it's fine, then I'm going to simply chop them off and then reattach them once I've upsized the sides of the sweatshirt. And now I have folded the sweatshirt as evenly in half as I can, and I'm just gonna basically follow this seam and chop all the way down both of the sides. I also went ahead and chopped off those thick side seams. I absolutely love it when I can use the scraps from one project to fix up and refashion another project, and especially when it happens like so quickly, kind of one after another. Anyway, so I took the chopped pink sweatshirt sides and sleeves and chopped off the cuffs, and those will go in my stash for a future project. Next, I went ahead and evened up those pink side panels. There was quite a bit of excess fabric on the sides that I had to chop off to make them into relatively neat long rectangles. And now it's time to finally put it all together. So I'm going to open up my Mickey Mouse sweatshirt and grab one of my side pieces, making sure I have it the right way round, because I'm going to put the bottom of the pink sweatshirt piece, of course, to the bottom of my gray sweatshirt. And I'm just going to line up the raw edges with right sides facing as kind of evenly as I can, and then go stitch that together. So now that I have one side successfully stitched on all the way down to the sleeve ends, yay! I was a bit worried it wasn't going to be long enough, but it worked out perfectly here. So now I can go stitch on the other side and then do the other side of the sweatshirt too. And look at that, I have both of the sides now completely upsized. Now I just have to reattach those sleeve cuffs because that's not looking so great. So let's do that right now. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab my chopped sleeve cuffs, the original ones from the sweatshirt, and which is, oh, this would be the inside. So let's pop them together with right sides facing and those chopped edges lined up, and then go stitch them together. Of course, stretching as I stitch here because it definitely needs that because the sleeves are now a little bit wider, which actually might give it a little bit of a puff here on the bottom. Let's go see. So the new old cuffs are now stitched back on. Let's flip it and check it, and that looks absolutely perfect. Let's go try it on. Yes, it came out so perfectly. Woo! I am so pleased with this one, and it is comfortable, it is loose, it looks just amazing. And seriously, I'm so pleased with this. I picked up these beautiful placemats at the thrift shop for only $1.99, so that's technically less than 50 cents each, and they appear to be unused, and they're absolutely gorgeous, super thick cotton. And so we're going to be transforming these into some awesome things over the next couple of tutorials, so let's just dive right in. So with the first two placemats, we're going to make a very quick and easy messenger style bag. So of course you need two placemats and a zipper or whatever kind of closure you want for the top of your bag, as well as something for a strap. Now, I've had these ones in my stash for ages, and I'm still not sure which one I'm going to use, but that doesn't matter actually. I can interchange them because I'm going to use these D-rings on either side of my bag, so I can, just clip my straps onto it. So of course, the first thing I did was decide which placemats I was going to use and laid them both face down. And now I'm just gonna take my zipper and attach it to one end here. And then once that's attached, I'm gonna stitch it on the other end. And because these are not stitched together yet, it is very, very easy to stitch on the zipper. So my zipper is stitched on to both sides. So now let's do the ultimate test here. And ta-da! It actually works. And that is awesome because I was a bit concerned when I was stitching it on. But now we can move on to the next part, and we're seriously almost done. So yeah, we're just gonna fold the placemats evenly together with right sides facing. And now we're just going to go stitch up all the open edges. So it's all stitched together. Now let's flip it right side out and see what we got. So here is another quick reuse refashionista tip. I hold on to my old wooden spoons. Clearly, I mean, you can see this one. I use it for glue gunning a lot, for poking corners and stuff. And that's what I'm going to do. Just going to use it to gently poke out my corners here. So that looks fantastic, and the zipper is still functioning. Yes, so let's move on to putting on those D-rings and the straps. So I just had a thought that for some extra safety, I'm going to fold this top part down like so, then can flip it over. And I'm just going to put my D-rings both on the same side. And luckily this has a really nice pattern on it, so I can line them up pretty perfectly here. And then all I'm going to do is stitch them on with this nice, rather thick embroidery thread, and then my bag will be complete. Yes, it came out so good. I mean, again, as everything, like the flap is perfect. The D-ring, every time this happens, the D-rings are nice and secure thanks to that thick embroidery thread there. And the best part is I can, switch out the straps to something else if I want to, which is fantastic. I don't know about you, but we have this awesome table that I found in the garbage and clearly fixed up with a bunch of fabric and paint here, but that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about is this. I'm pretty sure everybody has an area in their home, usually by the front door, where people just chuck their stuff. They just chuck it there. No matter how many times you say, don't chuck it there, it gets chucked there. Anyway, today we are going to take that placemat and create a fantastic little catch-all basket to go on my front table here. So let's go do it. So to make a very, very, very simple kind of catch-all fabric basket, all you need is a sturdy fabric placemat, and really that's it, and your sewing gear. But I don't like the back of my placemat here, so I've grabbed the last remaining piece of the scarf from my previous tutorial. So yeah, I'm going to stitch that to the back here, so when you see the sides of the basket, it also has a nice little pattern on it. So how I'm going to do that, very, very simple, of course, is to just lay it together with right sides facing, and then go stitch all of the open edges together, of course, leaving a space open so I can flip it right side out. So it's stitched together, I chopped off some of the excess fabric, and now it's time to flip it right side out. And once again, I'm going to use my old wooden spoon to gently pop out the corners as best as I can. The placemat was very, very thick, so I think that's, you know, as good as it's going to get, which is fine. So now I'm going to go stitch up this open bit here, as well as top stitch all the way around the outside edge, just to, you know, keep it neat and tidy looking, and then we can move on to the last step. So as I was sewing and top stitching this one, I had a thought of how to make a totally no-sew version. So let's give that a try and see if it's actually going to work. I mean, my brain literally never shuts off. So here I have the last and final placemat that I'll be transforming into something else soon. But first, I really want to see if my idea works. So I have my bit of twine here. I'm sure any kind of string or ribbon would work. And I am going to fold one of the corners up together. There you see, this is how we make the sides of our basket. And now usually you would stitch that right here. But my thought was, what if I don't have to stitch it? What if I can wrap some twine around it and knot it and just kind of make it a little bit, I don't know, funkier somehow, more decorative? And then just keep wrapping, wrapping, wrapping until I get to, you know, like the top or wherever I want it to be. And yeah, just tie it off. Okay, let's do another corner and see if this is actually going to work. Welcome to my brain. This is, you know, people always ask, how do you come up with ideas? I don't know. They just pop in my head. Okay, let's just cut that. I really think this is actually gonna kind of work. Okay, tie and wrap, 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 wrap. Now, of course, if I was doing this properly, it would look a lot nicer, but I'm just doing this just to see if it would work. And look at that. Seriously, that is actually going to work, because if I did this corner and I do the other corner, if I can pinch them up together well enough, then yeah, I'm actually going to have my kind of finished basket with no sewing at all. So cool, there's another idea for you, a totally no-sew version. Okay, now let's make the one that, you know, is actually going to go on my table. So, as I just showed you with the other kind of example one, you're going to grab a corner and just kind of pinch it together. That's it. It's so simple. And depending on where you put your pinch and how much you want to stitch, that will give you higher sides or lower sides. And then I'm just going to pin that in place and move on to the next corner, and kind of as as evenly-ish as possible. Again, no measuring, just eyeballing here. I'm going to pin that one in place and do the other two corners as well. So once you have all of your corners pinned, then all you have to do is go and stitch from the bottom up to the top on each of those corners. And my adorable little fabric basket is now complete and ready to be filled up. Now, if you wanted to be super duper sturdy and, you know, not kind of have these bit of possibly can fall over sides, then you will have to add some cardboard, add some interfacing or something like that. But for what I want to use this for, I am more than happy with how this came out. It is so super simple, so super quick, and it's pretty darn cute. Now let's go put it to work. And ta-da! That looks absolutely so much neater and tidier there in my little front entryway table area. So to kind of liven up the back of my jacket, I could just stitch this on, but that's not really me, is it? So instead, I think I'm going to see if I can create a pocket on the back, and I want to have a top flap to my pocket, so I've lined up the placemat here on the bottom with this little bit of decorative faux fur, and I think that's about the right size for a top pocket flap, so I'm going to now chop this to size. So this part is of course going to be the bottom part of my pocket, and the chopped bit, will be the top flap. But because this fabric is definitely going to fray, first I'm going to go sew up these chopped edges. Okay, that is all nice and stitched, and it's not going to fray at all. So now, because I want to kind of keep this faux fur detail on both sides visible, I think that would actually look pretty good, and then the pocket would puff out a bit, right? If I gather it up a little bit at the bottom here, and then, yeah, I'd have extra room in the pocket. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I stitched on both of the sides, and I've gathered up the kind of center part of the pocket, really trying to, you know, utilize the pattern again for my kind of, you know, center middle marks here. And now I'm just going to go stitch the bottom on. Look, I got a pocket. I got a pocket on the back of my jacket. So now all I have to do is go and stitch the top flap on. And I think I'm going to have to gather the center bit on the flap as well, just so it matches up properly. And my top flap is done, and I actually didn't have to gather it at all because the top part of the jacket here was a little bit wider than the bottom part, so that worked out great. Now, I'm not sure, so maybe you guys can help me out. I don't know if I should put a snap here to kind of keep it closed, or maybe do a buttonhole and a button. I don't know. You let me know down below, and I'll finish it off at a later date once I get some advice from you guys. But for now, let's go try it on. This is not easy. Okay. Okay. Hello. How fantastic. Again, I keep saying how fantastic. Sorry, it is very, very hot. This jacket is very hot. But seriously, that came out so cool.
And that was the first 7 days of my original 30 days of refashions. We had sweatshirts, curtains, and placemats, and now they are all fabulously transformed into wonderful new to me and you items. Be sure to stick around for days 8 to 14 coming at you in just a couple of days. And if you want me to crack open my Refashionista brain just for you, be sure to book a spot in my live closet fix sessions. The link will be down below. It is going to be super fun and of course super duper cheap as well. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I'll catch ya on the zigzag.
This is Confessions of a Refashionista.